Well, I lived in the Hutongs for a long time. I loved like my neighbors. Spend their whole day in their pajamas. Like that's fantastic. Because why wouldn't you? If no one cares, that's great. My name's David Fertitta. I'm from the US, Chicago, Illinois. When I first came, we had a lot of really good comedians. So we almost had more comedians than we do now. We didn't know what we were doing in terms of running a club. We were kind of clueless. Like we would have an open mic where we didn't have a time limit. So you just have like a crazy person with a microphone for 15 minutes. So you're like, oh, how do we get him off stage? I don't know. He's just gonna ruin the night. We're an English language comedy club. I'm going about 7 years now. We have a couple open mics around the city. We put on bi-monthly shows. Most of those are with just local comedians, but we do bring in occasional, we work with other clubs in China to bring in foreign talent as well. You can't force comedy on people, they have to come to want to see comedy. So we would go up and just sort of ruin people's time. But now we found the sweet spot. We found venues that are good for us, and I think that's the biggest thing we've learned. Obviously, the longer people are here and they do it, the better they get. But as a club, I think that's the number one thing we found is finding venues that work for us. As a comedian, you need to know your audience. Like, if you go out there, you kind of need to be able to do an audible. If you say, oh, there's 70% Chinese people, I can't do this joke that references this specific show. They're not, most of them aren't gonna know it, or like it was some weird thing in American history, they're not gonna know it, okay? So you play off that. There are things that like a Chinese audience loves jokes about a Westerner not being able to speak Chinese. That is it's like on a tee, really easy to get those laughs. One of the nice things about having a mixed audience, and not just Chinese expat, with the expat community is that you have people from all over. I think that you get to do like local jokes. Even though like I don't have the same cultural references as like someone from Germany. I don't know what they grew up watching. But we've all been living here in China where it's very different from our culture, and we have similar levels of like culture shock or something. You gotta play off that, With Chinese people involved, you don't want to, obviously, you never want to come off being mean about it. You want to be playful and always come off in a positive light. I love Shanghai too, but sometimes you go to Shanghai and you're like, oh, like you always feel kind of underdressed and like, it's like you forgot it was picture day when you were a kid. Oh, I forgot. Beijing doesn't feel snobby in any way, both with expats and locals. I think it's safer than most big cities in America, like I'm from Chicago and there are parts of Chicago I walk around where I am scared of being kidnapped. I don't think that's ever a thing here. I think if you're like an adult and raising a family and walking down the street at a reasonable time of night, there's nothing to ever worry about. But if you are, an idiot and blackout drunk and in Stanley Tune at 5 in the morning and looking like you don't know where your wallet is, of course, someone's going to rob you. Almost as they should. You've brought this upon yourself. I think it's the safest place I've ever lived. I think it's just been a great place to get to do stand-up and stuff. And I also DJ on the side. I think for an expat in China, especially when I first got here, it was kind of great. It's sort of like the Wild West in a way. You can kind of do things that maybe you're not qualified for, and you learn how to do it on the fly. And then eventually you make yourself qualified to do them. But you get opportunities that maybe you wouldn't otherwise have, or maybe they're things that you were good enough to do, but in America or wherever you're from, you'd be a little more nervous to do them. But in China, you're like, stand-up comedy, surely these other English teachers can't be that much better than me. If you want to do comedy, if you have any interest in comedy, do it. And don't be scared if you're going to do bad at first. Most people do. It's something you learn as you go. It's something you literally can't get better at unless you get on stage. You can't just practice it in the mirror. You might do well, you might not, but you'll get better. If you keep coming, you will get better. You just gotta come. There's like nothing in the media that is at all really accurate. And I don't know, stuff that you'll see in the media that's like true, but also out of context, it just seems more bizarre. When it just becomes your daily life, you just kind of realize, like, yeah, it's a place like anywhere else. It's so different from America, though, that it's a place you need to see to fully kind of understand the world and different cultures. And I think everyone should be put out of their comfort zone at some point. If you just do things you're comfortable with, you don't challenge yourself in any way, you don't really have much to add to the world, I think.